evening and welcome back to blackdoctor.org. I am your host, Dr. Renee. And for those that have never watched before, I am a medical doctor, but this is what I do. I talk about health and try to educate our community on different health issues. So today is National Women and Girls HIV/AIDS Awareness Day. So that's what March 10th is, and we'll have to find out how many years this has been going on. But we are going to have a phenomenal show. I'm so excited for the ladies I get to speak to today. But first of all, we have to take care of housekeeping. Please share the broadcast on whatever platform you are watching it on. Please make sure you share. Also, type in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. We have ladies from 3 different states today, so we might be in your area. So please make sure you let us know where you're watching from. And lastly, if you have any questions, please type them in the comments and I will do my very best to try and address them as best I can. But so here we go. Let's get started. Throughout the month, all across the globe, the contributions of women of every background are elevated during Women's Her Story Month, as March is known. During this month, and specifically on this day, March 10th, we also take a moment to create greater awareness and education on the impact of HIV/AIDS on women and girls during National Women and Girls HIV/AIDS Awareness Day. Women are still greatly impacted by the HIV/AIDS epidemic, with African American women having higher rates of new diagnosis than their white and Latina sisters. In general, the facts show us that African Americans continue to face the most severe burden of HIV compared to other racial ethnic groups in the nation, with just over 40% of people with HIV in the United States identifying as African American and more than 40% of new HIV infections in the United States occurring among African Americans, with 1 in 48 African American women likely to be diagnosed with HIV. Though stigma and a lack of education still permeates among the African American community about HIV and AIDS, tonight we will shift the narrative. Joining us tonight to talk more about the impact of HIV/AIDS among African American women and the journey of thriving while living with HIV are 3 phenomenal women. They are mothers, daughters, leaders in their communities, and change agents. Please welcome Tammy Kinney, joining us from Georgia, Veronica Briscoe, joining us from South Carolina, and that's it, right? That was 1, 2, 3. No, we're missing someone. And Sandra Ford. Sandra must be from Texas. So, Veronica, we can't see you yet, but I'm sure we will see you shortly. But I think we can actually hear you, though. Yes, we can hear Veronica, I think. We just can't see her. So, Veronica, something is over your camera, so if you just get that off, perfect. There she is. Good evening, lady.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for giving us your time this evening. I am so excited about this conversation because I know that we are going to enlighten even more people. So, Tammy, can you just briefly tell us, first of all, Tammy's coming from South Carolina, right?
Georgia.
Georgia. See, to me, the Deep South seems South Carolina. See, I'm all off. But Tammy, please tell us about some of the things that maybe you're doing today to celebrate and bring more awareness. Besides this.
Yeah, it is really an honor to be on this platform with my colleagues and you, Dr. Renee. This is really an honor. Throughout the month of March, of course, you said it, we're honoring all women with the work that they do. And today is National Women and Girls HIV and AIDS Awareness Day. So throughout the month, I will be presenting a documentary, and it's called HIVAIDS. Everyone has a story. But the girls in that, we call it the experience, because where we were then is different from where we are now. Also, talking about healthy love. I'm also going to be doing that this month in Atlanta. I'm taking some of the rural women to Atlanta, and we're going to hold that event at Pascal's, one of our favorite spots that we hold events because we know that's a historic site. So I will be doing those 2 events this month. Yes.
And what about you, Sandra?
Well, what I have going this month, again, my name is Sandra Ford, and I'm from actually I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, but my territory is Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
So we'll be having some testing going on throughout the month. Just staying in the community is important to me. Being able to get out and mix and mingle with people, that's where I hang my hat at. So we'll be out in the community doing some testing, giving out some swag and stuff like that. So um, I'm just so excited to be a part of this. I'm just excited.
Thank you so much. And Veronica, what will you be doing in South Carolina?
So we're excited to be able to do, and I'm going to kind of touch on something real quick. We created what was called a Women's Empowerment Academy in South Carolina. Myself and one of the other ladies who has now passed on, but we in her memory, it was called the Women's Empowerment Academy. We are doing something on Saturday, and one of the reasons for that is because several of our women are back to work now.
Right.
So that is exciting because oftentimes when you're diagnosed with HIV or AIDS, all you hear is a death sentence. Even in these times, still people feel that way. So we will be all getting together at one of the Ocean View restaurants that's in South Carolina. I'm also formerly a Georgian as well. So we will be getting together to do that. I'm really excited about the women coming from across the state. So we have some coming from down by Hilton Head. We have some coming from Myrtle Beach. We are closest to Columbia. So we chose Saturday, which would be a better day for everyone
Yeah.
to come and get together. So we're totally, totally excited about that.
It sounds like fun. All of the events sound like fun. So, Veronica and Tammy, we know you both work in the rural South. How
Yeah.
has the epidemic impacted those living in the rural communities?
Wow, that's a big question, but I can answer that. It, we feel like we are the Left Behind series, um, the ladies that I work with and men, but the ladies feel like they're not a part of anything.
Hmm.
They feel like, they have a voice, but nobody hears their voice. So what I try to do is encourage the ladies. Veronica and I, we share information, we share support groups, and we share that with the women in the rural area so they will be able to participate. Right now, I have a support group for women that are 60 and older called Sassy 60s. And, it's based on not only women that is diagnosed with HIV, but women, period, with a diagnosis of whatever that may be that are still living and thriving. But since this is a platform honoring women and girls that are diagnosed with HIV, we just want to be able to honor the women who are willing to speak out in the rural area and they just don't have a platform. So I do my best to create that platform for them because they have some things that they want to talk about themselves.
What
And
may
we
I
just
ask?
don't.
So, how long have each of you been HIV positive?
35 years
Oh my
for
lord,
me.
that is magnificent.
35
Me
years.
since I've been positive since 2009.
Okay.
And I have been HIV positive or living with HIV is what I like to say. I've been
Amen.
living
I
with
like that.
HIV since 1999. So going on 22 years now.
See the modern medicine. Don't we love our medicine?
Absolutely.
Yes, we
Yes,
do.
Yes,
I
yes,
love
we
it.
do.
One pill a day is a wonderful thing. And now even
It
one
is.
shot every 2 weeks is even better.
It's
Yeah.
Um,
even better.
so if I can even touch on the rural area, because I initially started out in Columbia, where there's a lot of things already available. I'm with another coworker at the time, Elizabeth, uh, who's still a friend of mine today. And what I found, there was a lot of women in the rural areas, especially when we did the Women's Empowerment Academy. We tried to focus on most of the rural areas. We did do Columbia, but probably 8 out of the 10 were pretty much
Mhm.
considered rural areas. And we did that because of the lack of access. We all have a different plight, no matter who we are, where we come from, or where we live. However, we found that a lot of the same things were happening in the rural areas. No access to transportation,
That's right.
Mhm.
no access to, the health services, but also the women not wanting to even go in the area because their cousin to a clinic or an infectious disease doctor because their cousin might be sitting at the front desk. So there was so many different things that we were working to overcome. And then even with the rural areas, we began things like games online. When COVID hit, we started doing Jeopardy and
Yeah.
Wheel of Fortune
That
and
sounds
The
like
Price
fun.
is Right and different things like that. But what we found there, the plight was either no internet access or no computer, no laptop, no even the phones. And
Right.
what I've done is AHF myself, represented with, has collaborated with another organization, a Women's Positive Women's Network organization. And even just recently, we got at least 6 women some tablets with internet service so
Yes.
that they can now participate in the different meetings, the different Zooms, the different activities. So the rural areas are tough, but those girls are tough as well. So we get excited about that, knowing that we keep it moving.
Right.
And, even
Yes.
when they're going through, we still push forward.
Yeah. Don't let anything be a barrier, especially in
That's
this
right.
time when we were we were
Mhm.
isolated, couldn't be around anyone, and then to have the stigma still going with that with the diagnosis. Yeah, that's wonderful. I love a game night. Amara knows. I love a game night.
It was awesome.
So
We had a good time.
what do you think are some of the reasons that African American women are so disproportionately impacted by HIV and AIDS? Anyone can take that. Don't all speak at once, ladies.
I believe that one of the reasons is because one, when you start talking about men who have sex with men, in our communities, a man who has a sex with, men who have sex with men, or men who some like to be defined as gay, or men
Yeah.
who have sex with men and women, it is, like a number, or what goes on in this house stays in this household. That doesn't happen in this house. So what happens? It becomes a secret because for me, my husband that I actually married, I didn't realize he was bisexual. Is what he preferred, and I didn't find out until after we were married that he was
Mm.
bisexual from his gay partner. So life goes on, but guess what? Like I told him, at least give me an option.
Right.
But the picture has to be so. Even because I became very close to his sister, they were just so happy that he was marrying a woman that it didn't matter to them whether I knew or not. They just wanted him to marry a woman because they didn't want him to be with a man. So my thing was, you have 2 daughters. Like, would you want someone to not inform them and at least give them the choice to know that the person is bisexual, a man who has sex with men or what have you? But in the Black community, and in many communities, but I'm going to say preferably,
And we're
especially
at blackdoctor.org, so you're fine.
yes, in the Black community. Guess what? They don't want to hear that you're gay. They don't want to hear that it's not okay oftentimes to be gay. So I believe that has a lot to do with what is going on. And even the man who I contracted HIV from, 3 other women that I know who, one I met along the way, the other 2 like might have dated, broke up, that type of thing. They also contracted HIV as well, because he just said, I'm not positive, even though the baby's mother died from HIV. He still, or AIDS, he still said, no, I'm not positive. And I think that is, he felt like as long as he didn't get tested or get checked, then he was good. Because now you can't say that he's HIV positive. So a lot of
Right.
that, I believe, it impacts the Black community.
And here's another thing. I'm speaking from a different view, but I agree 100% with Veronica. We have been following the footsteps of our mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers when it comes to relationships. It's almost like we marry for the wrong reasons, whether even if the man is abusive,
Hmm.
unfaithful, maybe in multiple relationships with a man or a woman, we stay. We don't ask questions. The only thing that we realize, the only thing that we know is stay in the marriage and be faithful. And all of our love and concern is toward the person that we with. We never take the opportunity to say, do I have a relationship with myself? Do I need to see about my body? Do I need to go to the doctor and get checked out? We are nurturers by nature, Black women are. And when things get rough for us, we cry in the corner. But then once we get through crying, we come out and wipe the tears and go back
Never
into the
look like
same.
what you've been through. Exactly.
Never look like it. And then instead of trying to get support, we think we can do it alone. And then when the diagnosis happened in the rural area, who do we talk to? We can't go to the church, right? Because we're forbidden. We're the unclean people. So we stay in denial for so long. And then not only the denial, the stigma that comes from the community, and then the stigma that comes from the family. All these things right here keeps us unwell. And I hate to say it keeps us sick, but it really does. So
No, it
what
does.
yeah, it does. So what
And
I
it
try
kills
to,
people. There's no reason that, especially in this day and age.
that's right. So the first thing that I try to do with the women in the rural area is ask the question, do you have a healthy relationship with yourself? And what does that look like? Especially if you're a woman living with HIV. What does that look like for you? Let's talk about that. And then you find out so many different things. I didn't want to go get tested, or I knew he was, but I didn't ask, or I asked and he lied to me, and all that just seemed to be all right. So we have to learn how to break that cycle of saying, okay, this has happened to me. Now let me start loving me, and let me take care of my mind, and let me take care of my body, and let me do my best to move on. And then the question next is, where do I go? And I do my best to provide the resources that if I don't have the answer, I have colleagues that have that answer, or we just research together and provide it. Yeah.
Sandra, you have anything to add?
My story is a little bit different. The gentleman, or I'm not gonna say gentleman, the man that infected me, he knew that he was positive. Matter of fact, his whole family knew that he was positive. And this was somebody that I grew up with. We grew up together in the same church community. Families were intertwined, and you know, when I got with him, I just had my girl checkup, I call it. So everything was fine with me, and according to him, everything was fine with him. But unbeknownst to me, he was HIV positive and had been HIV positive for many years. And I went for my checkup a year later, and I tested positive for HIV. And the only person that I had been with was him. And he swore up and down that, he didn't give me anything. But then through my counselor at the time and the Tarrant County Health Department, they called us, both of us, in. And he went before me, stayed about 30 minutes, and they brought me back. And it was then that he admitted to me that he was HIV positive, and he had knowingly infected me with HIV. So that was the day that my life changed. Everything began to spiral out of control because I was a single mother with 2 young children at the time, and I didn't know anything about HIV. All I knew with HIV was HIV, AIDS, die. So I cut all my hair off. I just kind of spiraled out of control for quite some time, and I was an angry Black woman. And I wasn't just angry at him. I was pretty much angry at all men at that time. And going through everything that I had gone through emotionally, I met a man by the name of John Reed, and he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself because I was messed up. And, you know, when I looked at my children, I knew that I had to shape up.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave me an opportunity to get it off, just get it off my chest one Sunday at church. And I've been running my mouth ever since. So I just know that, ladies, I have to take some responsibility, because after we started out in condoms, it was his idea to let's graduate from condoms, because I was an avid condom user, you know, and it was his idea that, you know, we'd been together long enough and he didn't have anything. I mean, this guy really, he did a number on me. And because of who he was in my life and had been for all those years, you know, I didn't have a reason to think that he would be lying to me about having HIV. He knew I was a single mother. He knew I had 2 small children. And he just didn't care. And his family didn't love me like I thought they did, because his sister was my son's godmother.
Oh.
So I, at that time, you know, I lost a whole family, a connection of people that had been so important to me. But I felt betrayed by the whole family, you know, because they could have made sure that I knew.
Mm-hmm.
But life goes on.
Yep.
And here I am, still standing, still in the fight out there against HIV and AIDS. And I believe that one day there's gonna be a cure. It might not be in our lifetime, but it's gonna be all right.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And the way it's moving, it might be in our lifetime because they have made so many strides. We did do a show recently for what day was it? National Black AIDS HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, and talking about PrEP and all these. There's just so many things that have come about now that, and like you said, one pill or one shot every 2 weeks. That is far from. I'm sure you, Tammy, would know 35 years ago having to take, 10, 15 pills a
AZT.
day, right? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, not only am I a long-term survivor, I'm also a survivor of AZT. And I was also, addicted to drugs. I contracted, I'm sure of it, HIV. The initial diagnosis in 1987 was AIDS through IV drug use. I was an IV drug user for about 13 years. Even after the initial diagnosis in 1987, I continued the drug use. I never focused on the AIDS diagnosis because of the drug use. It just camouflaged all that. It camouflaged the fact that I was diagnosed with it. It camouflaged the fact that I needed to be in care. I was just living a life just full of denial. I didn't talk about it. I even went to prison, got out. While I was in prison, they had like 2 separate lines. Okay. For the people that were diagnosed with HIV, you get in one line, and then the other line, was the have-nots. And we would walk up to the line and they would say real loud, put your hand out. And that's all I knew was to put my hand out. They dropped the pills in there, the blue and white capsules, and you had to stand there while you take it. I knew nothing about the harmful effects of AZT, but I survived. And then,
like I said, don't look like what you've been through.
Don't look like it. Yes. So today, I'm in long-term recovery. I am going on my 10th year, May 17th. I will be 10 years in active recovery. And, I do therapy. I'm now adhering to medication, but it has been a journey. It's been some battles, near-death experiences, but I'm here today. I'm here
Well,
today.
I'm glad you're here, and praise the Lord. I'm a Christian woman. My mother's a priest, and I believe in the power of prayer. So that is just
Yes.
somebody was praying for you. That is wonderful. So, how have the support of the sisterhood been a source of strength and support for you in thriving while living with HIV in the work that you do now around education empowerment? We'll start with you, Veronica.
So I tell you the truth, and I tell what I call my sisters. I have my blood sisters, and I have my big sisters, and my other sisters, who I have one blood sister, one born sister, but Tammy, Sandra, so many other sisters are my sisters. And I said sometimes you look at things as a curse, because I'm from, but you know what? Oftentimes it's a blessing in disguise, because those sisters, I don't believe that I probably would have met. I would not have met them if I did not have my HIV diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So the diagnosis has changed me and helped me to bring people into my life that are just as much family, almost as my family. I was blessed to have family that is very close to me and who, but many were accepting. Some at the learning, some what have you. But my sisters have empowered me that sometimes even when I don't remember, because see, HIV is not just about what I say to the women. It's not just about having HIV. Life has to be lived in a holistic approach. We're talking about mental health. We're talking physical health. We're talking so many things that come along with it. So when I have to call out on my sister, sometimes my blood sister that you all saw earlier helping me, um, she may not be able to really respond as a Tammy or a Sandra would because she does not live with HIV. So when I reach out to them from the perspective sometimes of HIV, and not just that, it's about life, it's about relationships, it's about survival. When I reach out to my sisters, it's about empowering me to continue to press forward, to thrive, to move through. So, just touching on the Women's Empowerment Academy again, I mean, we had some that we called our most improved sisters, or our most powerful, our most empowered sisters that came through. Because one thing that we taught them as well is, sister, we have to learn to support one another for one. But second of all, sometimes, and not that we're on relationships, sometimes you get in a relationship, but your HIV has nothing to do with the way you're being treated.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about being healthy yourself, because whether you had HIV or not, that relationship, even sometimes friendships, are unhealthy. So don't get caught on your HIV diagnosis. Don't let that be the thing that defines who you are. You're still a child of God first, and then you're maybe a black person, a black woman. There's different categories. So we have to keep that holistic approach in mind.
Definitely. Sandra, what about you?
As a black woman living with HIV, I used to say it can be a lonely HIV existence, because for me, I kind of shut myself off from people for quite some time, and till I was screaming on the inside, I gotta get this out,
Mm-hmm.
I gotta do something. And it was through AHF that I met most of my sisters. I call them my sisters, most of my sisters that are living with HIV as well. And, having somebody like you that you can talk to, and, it might be just you having a bad day, and having somebody that you can talk to and reach out to, it has really helped me, because I know Veronica, we pretty much talk every day. And I tell you, sometimes I know I wouldn't have made it through some of the stuff without that sister. And I love you, Veronica, and I really appreciate the times that you were there for me when it might have been my kid issue, a boy issue, a man, like I'm not a boy, but a man issue, or what have you, because people are cruel.
Mm-hmm.
People are cruel, and deciding not to live my life as a secret. My mama asked me, Sandra, are you gonna tell everybody? And I told her I just might, because when I decided that I was gonna live my life and I wasn't gonna let HIV run my life, it was then that I started to thrive and come back to myself, because as I said, I was in a dark place for so long.
Love you, girl. You know we love you. God knows we got you.
Tammy, what about you?
I have two sisters that are just wonderful, but they don't have a diagnosis. And I always wanted to be, I used to look at other women, and in my heart and in my mind, I would say, I want to be just like them. I want to be open. I want to be able to share some pain and some hurt. And I just didn't know how. And I started joining different support groups. Some worked and some didn't. But then I became a part of an organization that allowed me to be me. And at that point, that was good enough for me. And then I became a part of a larger organization, AHF, and it allowed me to be a part of some sisters that are phenomenal. I called Veronica my partner in crime, and I met Sandras, so I'm going to put her in the car too. Because we have done work together, Veronica and I, in the rural area. And it opened up a lot of doors, because what I could not bring to my sisters in the rural area, Veronica did. But I can share my deepest, my sadness, my pain, my hurt, my foolishness without being judged. My sex life, I can just talk about everything and be okay and be me. Because in the beginning and even in the middle of my diagnosis, I couldn't be me. My mom said, you better not tell nobody. We was giving a conference and Veronica was there and I was up there speaking. And I looked back and looked at my mom. She was saying,
Oh,
get up there and say, you know what I mean? But then one day I just, a pastor came to the house to see me and I just said it. I just said it. What are we going to do World AIDS Day? Because, I'm positive if you want me to go ahead. And my mother was just like, how dare you? You know what I mean? The whole house was just frozen because it was so hard for me to be me. And when I became me, it was like, finally.
mm-hmm. A load been lifted off.
Yeah, and I'm 62 years old, and the majority of my life living with HIV, I had to be something somebody else wanted me to be, but not today. I have sisters that I can call. I have some sisters that I better not call at 12 o'clock, but if the Lord allows me to wake up at 8, I can call and we can talk about what's going on. And I appreciate those sisters. But it's a good thing to have somebody in your corner that understands and willing to listen in time of need. Yeah.
Definitely. What do we need to do as Black women to address the ongoing stigma that exists amongst us as sisters?
Go ahead, Tammy.
I think for the ladies that I serve in Georgia, I think that we have to come together and have conversations, because still yet it is a lot of women that has been diagnosed for 20 and 25 years that are still in silence. But you got to figure out what is going on internally. A lot of the stuff that we are going through, some of the women are going through, it's internal. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It's something that's already going on, and it was going on before the diagnosis. This is when we have to get together and talk about the trauma, the healing, going on different retreats and just cried out without anybody getting up, giving you some tissue, just let the tears flow. We got
Yeah.
to address the issues that were present before the HIV. We need healing. We have trust issues anyway, Black women. We have a certain amount of trust issues. I don't trust that sister over there because you don't even know why you don't trust her. We have severe trust issues, you know, in the rural area. But like Veronica is saying, we're working on it. We're doing a great job. But we just got to have other conversations besides the HIV because it's more to us and it's more going on with us than HIV.
Right. And if we heal the trauma and whatever it
Mhm,
is, then you
mhm.
might make better decisions that would not allow you to get HIV, maybe. No drug
Absolutely.
use, no bad relationships where you all don't have a honest dialogue, or let's go get tested together and you make
Yes.
sure that you see his results and he can't, lie about it or anything. So yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. We know that there is a lot of awareness around the impact of HIV among men sleeping with men, but how do we ensure that the impact on Black women is not forgotten?
Hmm.
This is when we speak out. A lot of times, we would say the funding isn't coming.
Hmm.
For me, I just do my best to make it happen some kind of way. I remember selling Drink to Shrink. Everybody wanted to lose weight. So I did a Drink to Shrink event, and then that turned into a conversation of HIV and let's get tested. In the town that I live in, we have lost some young girls to HIV because they wouldn't get care. And
Right.
then when I did intervene and tried to have that conversation, it was basically, and I hate to say it, but it was just too late.
Mhm.
So we got to pull him in and have that conversation. It's okay to get tested. And if we don't have the money to talk about these things, just learn how to create an event, learn how to create your own table. Just be that voice. Show up at these Ryan White meetings and these cab work. We got to be able to show up because they're talking about us. And I always tell the ladies, if they're talking about us, we need to be present so we can talk about who we are and what we need because we know what we need. We don't have time to wait on some money to come down from over there and wait till this person get this grant money, you know. And I always say it's okay to fry chicken wings because we was doing it when we was, having parties and stuff. It's okay. It's okay to do that if we have to. Yeah.
What else? What else do you guys think?
I think we have to come together, just like Tammy was saying, come together and keep each other informed so that we all stay abreast of what's going on. What you know, I might not, it might not have trickled down to me yet. So I think we have to keep each other informed and educated on what's going on, and stay in the fight, because it is a war. Um, living with HIV is a war, and it can be like being on the battlefield. But I think that, you know, we should continue to stay out there in the streets and talk to women, men, boys, and girls about knowing their status. It's so important now that we know our status, and so that way we can get these people in care and get rid of HIV once and for all.
Definitely.
And I think that one thing that we need to consider, especially as women, we don't want people to know everything that's going on or what have you. You still have to have discretion, especially when you sit in a leadership role. But I think honesty and transparency is crucial. And sometimes sometimes you hold back, sometimes you put it out there. But sometimes, people have to know too that we didn't get here where we sit now, and so grateful to be here. It's truly an honor. Been nervous all day. Okay. But but just knowing that some of the things that they've already gone through, we've gone through as well. And that this took time. This took a process. And that when they're not okay, it's okay to not be okay. But I don't believe this thing is going to end until women really step up and make it end. No offense to you, my brothers, okay? But women usually we get in there and get the hustle done. I say, every behind every good man, there's a good woman. So just really empowering people, and especially women at the level that they're willing to be empowered to. We have a program, because you think hero, people often put that to men. We have a program. Peter Positive Women's Network has a program called Sheroes. And each month there's a Shero of the month. Okay. Because until we are able to stand up for ourselves, until we're able to stand proud and tall and say, yes, I'm a woman living with HIV, and you know what, that's okay. Because everybody's not going to agree. But we internally have to be okay with that as well. Knowing that everyone is not going to agree, and knowing that everyone is not going to be okay with it, but leaning on our sisters when it feels like it's a little heavy, right? So continuing to educate our community, because even though we want to make the women better, we got to encourage the men as well. We recently went to a retreat, Men of Color in Motion, MOCA. It had 3 of us come, even though we're women, and present too at their weekend retreat, because they're beginning to open up to us as well, understanding that this fight encompasses all of us. Because the reality is, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So let's not just be on the menu. Let's be a part of making the menu move forward in a direction for what we need. See, men have come out, they have fought, they have said what they had to say, they've done what they had to do. They got us through this thing in the beginning, right? They fought, they got that medication, they fought, so many lost their lives, but they still hung in there and they fought. But women, we are going to have to learn to come out. And as I say to a lot of the advocates that we have, you may not do what Tammy and Sandra and myself do. Everybody doesn't have to be the voice. We're the voice for the voiceless. But it doesn't hurt to write a letter. Nobody sees that. You don't even have to put your status in, but if a congressman needs to be approached, you're a constituent. Let's make a difference. Step in there, send that letter, make that phone call, encourage another sister, instead of sitting back. Because I had one girl tell me, you came in there with those leopard shoes on, and I just wanted to beat the crap out of you. I was like, I can't stand her. And she said to me, but I didn't know why I couldn't stand you. It was those shoes. Literally still loving people even in all that, still loving your sister, right? Don't get mad and go talk behind her back. I want to get real to the basics of the cattiness that we do sometimes. Let's get down to the basics. Let's not be catty. Let's try to diffuse situations when people come. They know, don't call me with that. Unless you want a mediator, unless you want somebody who is going to help resolve this situation, I'm not the sister for you to come to, because we're going to make a difference to help each other to be empowered. And we're going to stand up when a sister asks a question and says something. Be the one to stand up and say, you know what, girl, that was a good question. I'm glad you asked it. Because a lot of times other people want to ask the same question but won't. So let's be more of encouragement instead of a discouragement to each other.
Now, Sandra, you mentioned about talking to boys and girls. Today is about women and girls. What would you say to female caregivers of young girls about talking to them about loving themselves and making educated, informed decisions about relationships and intimacy, no matter who they choose as a partner?
What I would say to the caregiver is to, be honest and open when talking to them, because the young people today, they're a little bit different than we were when we were coming up. They accept truth a little bit better than we do. So I would say, have a list of other organizations that you could refer them to, and so that they can get counseling if they need counseling, and learn how to, like you said, learn how to love themselves in spite of HIV, because you still got to live no matter what. And we need to keep the education lines open so that people can get educated about HIV and know the things that we didn't know when we were coming up. Because I know there's a lot there. It can be overwhelming, but it can be done because we gotta do something because HIV, it's the numbers are not going down. They're steadily a rising, and particularly in the Black women's
Mm-hmm.
area.
Yep.
So I would say let's just be real with it and give them tools that they can use.
Definitely. Tammy, what do you say?
I share my story with the young girls in the surrounding communities. We have an opioid crisis. So
Mm-hmm.
I start with the drug use, talking to the young ladies about drug use. Some of the young ladies' parents, they show up when um, I have different events. And I talk to them about what drug use can lead to. It can lead to making an unhealthy decision. It can lead to unprotected sex, not with one, but multiple individuals in the same night. It could cause, because you can't win and you can't make a healthy decision when you're addicted to drugs. You just can't. And the 13 counties that um, one of the agencies that I work for, I use that as a benefit to do my AHF mobilization. And in those 13 counties, it's an opioid crisis.
Mm.
And I have to talk about what that would lead to. And it is okay to get tested. The college students at the university, they don't think it applies to them, but it applies because if you're drinking and if you're drugging, you need to be educated on what that leads into. So for me, I do not go straight into, okay, let's get tested. I talk about the other stuff before you get tested. Drug use. Let's talk about that. And then when I get through with that conversation, I let people know that the caregivers know that it's okay to get tested. It's nothing wrong with getting tested. Know your status.
Amen.
Knowing your status, you can give the next person the opportunity to say, no, I don't know if I can be in a relationship with you.
Mm-hmm.
Or let me get tested because I've had unprotected sex. It's just like a domino effect. If
Right.
a group of young girls over here get together and say, we're going to get tested, trust me, in the rural area, it's going to be another crew come behind it. And it's just like a domino effect. But I have to talk about the unhealthy relationship and the drug use and bring that education and awareness to the forefront.
Veronica, what are your tips?
uh, I guess I would definitely ditto everything that they've also said, and I think that we also have to educate them on some basic things. A lot of people don't like to talk about sex. They don't like to talk about different things that are going on. But women need to know about a female condom.
Mm-hmm.
Do
Mm-hmm.
they know that exists? People are surprised. There's a female condom. Yeah, girl, you can put that thing on before the club, and
Yep.
you'll still have it ready and good to go
Yeah.
when it's time. So now you're empowered to take care of yourself. And as you see, empowerment is just that's where I live. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of my space. Because you can give a man a fish, but we all know you teach them how to fish, and they can get through
Mm-hmm.
continuously. So dittoing what they are, what was has already been said, and then just again teaching people how to love themselves and teaching caregivers that at least if you don't want to have the conversation, because I had a friend recently, can you talk to my son? It was actually his son.
Mm-hmm.
So my work husband Tim, I said, listen, I want to talk to him first, but then I also want to be able to connect him to you because we have a lot of women out here who are already empowered. So I have a young girl in South Carolina. We have a young girl in South Carolina who came through the academy and is now empowered. So sometimes you feel them out, and maybe I need to refer this person to a younger person to
Mm-hmm.
communicate with so that they are more able to connect with them. They may connect with me, but more from a mommy
Right.
perspective. But sometimes we have to get out the way too, because see, we're not the end all. I don't need to be the poster boy for women living with HIV. We can all share that space. You know what I mean? God is, because what God has given us can't no man take away anyway. So it's automatically going to happen. But we got to be able to be open and share that space with even parents, with teachers, and not be ashamed to say what needs to be said. Because I get down and gritty. So I'm going all the way in. So I tell them, you can take me from the outhouse to the White House. Who do you need me to be today, dear? You know what I mean? So
I love it.
I think that we need to continue to be that and be just as transparent, and transparency and honesty, and trust. Because I love sayings. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So really taking that time, even afterwards, even after you help them, check in a week later if you haven't heard from them.
Yeah.
Check in a few days later, and be open to accept. And I always let people know I don't duck phone calls, because I have enough wherewithal to tell you not to call my phone. Nor will I change my phone number or block your number. When I say don't call, I mean don't call. Okay? So just know that if I didn't answer the phone, boo, I'm not ducking you. Call me back or I'll call you. So just being open, honest, and helping others to be able to be honest with you as well.
So before we leave, I've got to ask, what resources are available for Black women to learn more about HIV and AIDS and get tested? So one of you can tell us, and then I'll try and make sure we get them in the post, so that people can definitely click on those links or whatever.
Well, firsthand resources is the women that's on this live, right? But then there are pamphlets for young women and boys living with HIV, or just education for Black women in HIV. Here in Clark County, they do have pamphlets that are posted up. And then around different testing days or HIV awareness, a lot of us post information, whether it's on Facebook or we just share information. But they do have pamphlets for Black women living with HIV, Black young girls and boys living with HIV and aging in Black women. They do have those resources. And like I said, in the Clark County, in the surrounding counties, they have them in their offices and stuff. Yeah.
Perfect. And I also, I think I have, yes, we do. So here's the ticker, freehivtest.net. That I know is one place that definitely everyone can please go to. Also, thank you, AIDS Healthcare Foundation, for your assistance with this, as well as Black. And if you tell me what Black stands for, Amar, I'll say it. But I just have to remind you guys, if you don't know where to get a free HIV test, did you hear me say free? There's no excuse.
That's
Free
right.
HIV test.
Free.
Go to this website, freehivtest.net. You'll put in your zip code. They'll tell you exactly where to go to get a rapid, free, confidential test near you. Black Leadership AIDS Crisis Coalition is part of AHF, and thank you so much for helping us tonight to bring me these lovely three women who have probably more knowledge than I, and I went to med school. But thank you guys so much. I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your truth, your wisdom, and your words of education and empowerment. As we close, can you share a final thought that you want to leave with our viewers? We'll start with you, Veronica.
I'll just say, don't be afraid to find out whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. Getting that test is not as scary as it seems. And if you can find somebody that you trust or find somebody to go with, then please do that and take time to take care of yourself. Thank you so much for having us here as well, Dr. Renee.
You're welcome.
An honor.
And I would say the most important thing is knowing your status. So get tested. Don't be afraid of the test. The fear should be not knowing, because if you don't know, you don't get into treatment, and the rest of it we don't even want to think about. So know your status. Know your status.
And I have.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I have to agree with Veronica and Sandra. Know your status. Get tested. Learn to love yourself. Be in a healthy relationship with yourself and find that support group that works for you. All support group doesn't work for everybody, but find that one support group that works for you. We do not have to be ashamed.
Thank you so much. And I hope everyone has learned something, or at least you got a website that you can give to a family member, friend, or anyone. You guys have to know that we have to get to these young people, because it is really, really, really horrible how the numbers have increased so much in the young Black community. So we have to get to the young people. So please make sure you pass this information on. And especially, I know that I was recently, a couple years ago, I found out sex ed is like not being taught in most schools now. So it is very important that you get this information to young people, because they're missing out on what we learned, and we didn't even learn all that we should have learned. So please get this information out to them. And thank you again to HF and Black. And I will see you guys again next week. Next week, I do believe we will be talking about colorectal awareness, because it is colorectal awareness month as well. And in case anyone didn't know, we also have been dying in very, very horrible numbers to colon cancer. And colon cancer is one of the treatable cancers, in case you didn't know. So please tune in next week and we'll talk about that. I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Bye.